one thing that you are intending to weave into this malama, into this month. Okay. I like that idea, Susie.
Okay, looks like now we're on YouTube. So sorry, Keiko, some of your instructions for our warming up exercise didn't really get heard by anybody that's on YouTube with us. So
no worries. If you are on YouTube, what our Zoom participants are doing is, sorry, I can hear the echo. Today is the Hilo moon, which marks the beginning of a new malama. And Hilo means to braid or twist or bind together. And so we're just asking folks to participate by typing into the chat or into the comment section of YouTube, one thing that you are intending to weave into this malama. Awesome. Good answers. I can't see what's on YouTube, but in Zoom, we have being more proactive, manifesting visions, Oli or Pule, active morning routine. I need that too. Preservation and protection. Yeah. Yeah. Self-care. Important. Yes, lunchtime walks. Got to get away from the desk, out of the chair. Very good. All right. So, planning. I'm so excited that Mary Monarch is going to be, anyway, lots of exciting things as we kind of forge forward. Cool. Okay. Now I'm just trying to find my screen. Hi, Patrice. I'm just going to rename you here so that our folks can identify you. So before Franny kind of calls this meeting to order, we do this regular reading of our kind of the governor's proclamation. So pursuant to the governor's proclamation related to the Sunshine Law in-person meetings dated January 26, 2022, the requirement to have at least one in-person meeting location has been suspended through March 25th. And so no in-person meeting location was provided for this meeting. Members of the public have the option to watch the Joint Action Committee meeting live on the Planning Department's YouTube channel or to join by Zoom. And so, again, we always appreciate folks' patience as we navigate through this Zoom world. And tonight from staff side, for Zoom support is myself and Heather and Jazz. And then very quickly, I'll turn it over to Heather for our ground rules.
thanks, Keiko. So we have folks here with us on Zoom, but also others that are watching us on YouTube. So there's some things that we should be aware of and just kind of keep in mind as we move forward in the meeting. Ground rules kind of help us to all have a similar basis of understanding on how to communicate and move through the meeting. So sorry, these are kind of boring, but for our Zoom participants, we do ask for the following. Please remain muted and minimize distractions so as not to take away from the person that's speaking. If you would like to speak, please use the raise hand function and wait for recognition from staff. Also, if your video is on, you can just raise your hand. Does everybody know where the raise hand function is or want me to explain how to find it? I know it's different for different browsers. If you're on your phone or anything else on an iPad, it's different. So I might not know all of them, but there's usually a reactions button. and an option to raise your hand. So that's one way to get attention from the chair or from staff. I just wanted to note that the Zoom chat function is not readily viewable by the public that are watching us on YouTube. And it may not also be reflected in the official meeting minutes if it's not pulled into the current conversation. Members of the public that are with us, Patrice, anytime you want to use the chat function, please feel free to. Your input's valued and will be noted and written down by staff. Members of the public are encouraged to sign up to provide testimony, or alternatively, you can always submit written testimony by commenting or by contacting us. If you're joining us from YouTube, please feel free to leave a comment in the chat box area. We are monitoring the chat, but we may not have the time or the capability to incorporate everything we see on the chat into the meeting tonight. So if there are things that we can follow up on, we do try to do that too. So we do feel strongly about providing good service for our community, making our meetings inclusive. So we do read through your feedback that we receive, and we'll be following up as we can and where it's needed. And lastly, just want to say mahalo for being here and for joining us on this collective project. We host meetings, we host our meeting information on our website. We also send out email reminders and information to our mailing lists. We're also available over the phone, email. You can find us in the planning department office. We try to make ourselves available. If at any point you need more information, please feel free to contact us or the website or any other channels for other information. So yeah, if everybody's feeling comfortable and ready to go, we'll turn it over to Franny, who is our acting chair of the Action Committee. Thanks, Franny.
Okay, thanks so much. And I apologize, I'm going to be looking over here because this is where I have the agenda. So I'm not trying to be rude and not look at you guys, but this is where I'm reading it from. So, okay, Heather, ground rules. So I guess this is the official call to order of our Puna CDP Action Committee tonight. And the first order of business would be the roll call. So as a reminder, per that sunshine law, the updated sunshine law, which the last time we had a presentation on, all of us on the Action Committee have to keep our cameras on throughout the meeting. And we also have to announce anyone who is with us in our location. So I asked Keiko for some clarification earlier, and it appears that means anyone who's in the house. I don't know if you need to name them or just, if it's your family or whatever, but just need to be aware that even if they're not in the room with you, it counts. So I think I'll just let each of the Action Committee members, I'll call on one, and then if you could call on the next and call on the next and do that sort of thing, to just say hi and just introduce yourself, where you are tonight, and who's in the house with you. So I'm Franny Brewer. I'm in Mountain View at home, and my 14-year-old is here, and she's definitely not paying attention to this. And I am going to call on Kanoi.
My kako, Kanoi Wilson. I am here at my home in Ainaloa, along with my husband and my youngest son, who, like Franny's daughter, is probably not paying attention to anything to us, along with my 3 puppies. So I will call on Leila.
Aloha mai kako, o leila ke aloha ko'ino no puna mai au. I'm here in the Makuhoin homesteads, and I have my 2 children, my niece and my husband, and they're in the other room making dinner and watching TV, so they're not paying attention. Yeah. Mahalo, and I'll call on Auntie Susie.
Aloha mai kako, o Susie Osborne ko'uinoa. I'm calling from Hilo, and my older sister is in the house in my hale, but not in the room, and definitely not paying attention. Mahalo. Mahalo, Ashley, for joining us. I call upon Leilani.
Aloha mai kako, ea wau ma'ola'a. My koko'olua is here, but he's leaving, and my son is here, and he's definitely not interested, but mahalo nui for having me this evening. Kalamai. Let's go with Sharon.
Do we need to continue actually?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I think that
was just us guys. Does that we? Oh, yeah. Sorry.
I know it's such a it's a
habit.
it's a short list. We're a very small group, so it kind of went fast. And actually, I didn't realize, I guess officially this, Leilani and Kanoe, is this your first official CDP meeting? Okay, I don't know what we had done before, but I guess that was the onboarding. So this is your first official meeting, and since you haven't been officially introduced to the community, if I could go back to each of you and just to welcome you here and let us know why you joined this lovely organization, and sort of introduce yourselves to the community and your aspirations. So Leilani, I'll go right to you because you were the last to speak. So we'll bounce back to you.
Okay, mahalo. My name is Melissa Leilani Di Mello. I live here in Ola'a in Puna, and I'm very grateful to be here to put in work with my fellow Puna community here. And I think for me, the reason that I wanted to be a part of this group is that I firmly believe that you need to start in your own community as far as helping and doing things for your lahui and for the community, your community that you live in before you can go out. I mean, we all do things outside of our community, but it's time for me to focus more on home. And Pune is a very special place to me, and it's definitely changed my life and the life for my children. And this is the way that I choose to give back. Mahalo.
Awesome. Wise words. Go ahead, Kanoe.
Aloha mai kako, ova o Kanoe, sugana mo Wilson, no keoka hilo mai yao. Born and raised on Hawaii Island, I'm just honored to be part of the Puna EC. Previous to me actually serving on this action committee, I actually served with the Department of Water Supply and was on their board. And it was a great experience that I had in being part of civic engagement, being part of really understanding the intricacies of government and governance and decision making and all of those things. And so through that experience, I thought, okay, once my term was up, what else could I do? And like Leilani, the same thing happened to me. It was that I had that one experience through serving on that board that I realized, time to start in the backyard, time to work right in the community that I live and my ohana lives in. And so that was really what prompted me. And I think what was the nudging point that was like, Kanoe, you gotta go. You just gotta do this, was volunteering at the Pu'uhonua Puna during the eruption, and being down there with Ikaika and the crew, and helping to feed, helping to offload things, helping to distribute all the lako that was being donated to all the ohanas that was being impacted by the eruption and everything like that. And so I think that was my, my ho'a moment, the ho'a ike kukui, which is why I have my la right up here, always reminding me about this is the reason why I'm here living in this community. And same thing, just ho'ikapiko, giving back to the very essence and center of where I come from. So mahalo.
Mahalo to you. That was beautiful. Okay. I guess the next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes. So we are going to look at the draft minutes from our last meeting, which was on January 19th. Seems like a million years ago. Can we have a motion? Hopefully everybody's had a chance to review those. Can we have a motion?
I move to approve the January 19th minutes, which I have reviewed. Mahalo.
Wonderful. Thank you, Susie.
I second.
Thank you, Layla. So all in favor, you can raise your hand physically or use the thumbs up if you feel more comfortable, but I see a bunch of hands. So it looks like the motion passes unanimously. Next, we would want to have public comment on agenda items, and we have received one request to have public comment. Is there anybody else here? I don't suppose there's no way to do it from the other stream, right? It's only if they're in Zoom. Okay. So I think the only person in here that is signed up to make comments is Patrice. Hi, Patrice. Long time no see. Welcome. You want to be speaking on each of the items. It's 3 minutes per item. So I'm not sure, Kiko, is somebody from your team going to time and let Patrice know so that she can move on to the next item in a timely fashion? Okay. All right, wonderful. Patrice, if you want to go ahead, and do I need to read out the title of each business item that she's going to speak on, Kiko? Or Heather or somebody? Like, do I need to read it out before she says it, or?
Let me confirm with Patrice. She's saying she did not get an agenda.
Oh, okay.
Patrice, if you can unmute. Hi.
I never got the agenda.
Okay.
I can't really testify on an item I don't have with us.
Heather's going to share screen right now so that you can take a peek at the agenda. Can you see that?
Yeah, that's okay. I'll chime in if I have anything to say.
Okay. So just to clarify, are you still wishing to testify on these items here?
I don't know yet. I'll get back to you.
Okay.
I'd have to read them first. The synergies between implementation of the Puna CDP and Kilauea recovery. Number 3.
Okay.
Do you want to testify on that right now, or should we have Sharon give her presentation, and that would give Patrice a few moments to gather her thoughts?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Great.
Why don't we do that? We'll come back to that, to the public testimony from Patrice before that action item. But right now, I think we'd like to welcome Sharon Hirota from the County Office of Housing and Community Development. It's nice to see you again. And it says here, you're going to present several programs, including the Emergency Rental Assistance, Homeowners Assistance, Landlord Tenant Mediation Center, Financial Empowerment Services, and the recently launched Coordination Center. And with the hopes that all of us on the action committee, and I guess anybody watching, would start to share these out to their networks. Great, thank you. Please take the floor.
Aloha, thank you for having me this evening. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Sharon Hirota. I work for the County of Hawaii with the Office of Housing and Community Development. And part of my work is focusing on the development and implementation of community engagement programs and providing opportunities for people, our community members, to gain access to resources in the community. So is it okay if I share my screen? Okay. So hold on, just want to make sure. Okay, hope you can see my screen. So let's proceed. So again, as I said, Sharon Hirota, I work for the county with the Office of Housing and Community Development, working in regards to community engagement programs, as well as the recent launch of our Financial Empowerment Center. So I just want to make sure, sorry, I need to adjust my computer so I can see the screen, sorry. Hold on, sorry. Need to move this out of the way. Okay. So as Franny said, this evening I'm going to talk about the emergency rent and utility assistance programs and other community engagement programs the county has launched in partnership with a lot of our community-based organizations, including Landlord Tenant Mediation, the Coordination Center, Homeowner Assistance Fund, as well as the launch of the Financial Empowerment Center. So the first one is our emergency rent and utility assistance program. This was launched in April of 2021. And thus far, as of our last report dated for the week ending February 26th, we have provided financial assistance to over 1,800 unduplicated households here on Hawaii Island, paying out more than $13.6 million to help residents ensure housing stability by having them get caught up in their rent and or utilities. We did some quick calculations for the Puna, based on the Puna zip codes, because we collect data by Puna zip codes. So to date, we've helped a little over 500 households in the Puna community, and averaged and paid out a little over $3.1 million in rental assistance into households that are in the Puna area. So we also recently launched a grant that allows us to hire community individuals that live and work in the various communities. And they've been going door to door and visiting different businesses and just sharing information about the different programs that are available. And when we did that, we saw an uptick in the number of people who are participating in the program. As you can see here, it's truly a partnership. The county is on contract with Hawaii Community Lending, and they turned around and subcontract out with 6 different organizations who are using one application, one set of policies and rules, but providing 6 back offices in the processing of applications. And so we've been very successful in getting these fundings out into the community. The next program is a response to the lifting of the moratorium that allows landlords right now to go through the eviction process if their tenants are in non-compliance with the lease agreements. In August of last year, when that was lifted, what also went into play was a temporary modification to the landlord-tenant code that requires landlords and tenants to go through a mediation process before actually entering into the court system. We've been very successful, that 95% of the people that are walked through the mediation center, the matter has been able to been resolved, thus allowing people to stay housed. The other 5% are coming out of because they just have not been able to resolve the issue, or the tenant has decided to move on and find other housing opportunities. So we have 2 partners, the Kuikai Mediation Center that manages the program out of Hilo, and the West Hawaii Mediation Center that takes care of the West Hawaii community. The Coordination Center, which was recently launched earlier this year, is currently managed by Neighborhood Place of Puna. And we're calling it a Coordination Center, and what it's meant is it's basically a call center. It's an opportunity for people to connect by phone, by text, or by completing a really brief application. But what it does is it connects our residents to free one-on-one coaching and connectivity to community-based and government-supported services. So instead of an individual, and what we learn through the COVID experience is that many people found themselves for the first time in situations that they've never experienced: loss of job, reduction in income, not understanding what benefits are available to them and the members of their household. And instead of having them to call 10 different places and being bounced all over the place, right? You call one number, they tell you call the next number. We decided to launch the Coordinating Center so they can call one place, get connected to a navigator or a coach, and using a software platform called Unite Hawaii, allows us to do referrals and track referrals. So we know that when somebody says, I'm looking for unemployment or I'm looking for healthcare benefits, here are potential resources. They can send the referral out to that agency, who would then, for lack of a better word, ping them with an email saying, so and Sharon is looking for these services. Here's our contact information, and we can track the referrals. We can also make sure that the agency that's receiving the referrals are following up, and if they're not, the system allows for extra follow-up. We just want to make sure that families are getting connected to the appropriate services. We decided on doing this because what we found, just based on history, is that sometimes when people get referred or get told, here's your homework and here's 10 things you need to do the next time I see you, we all get caught up in just day to day. And so the paper ends up on behind the seat, under the seat of the car, in the baby bag, and it never gets followed through. So we're testing this electronic referral system to see if how it works. The next one is our Homeowner Assistance Program, and I'll share these slides with you so you folks will have access. But the Homeowner Assistance Program, we've been offering rent assistance. And so the federal government came out with the opportunity for mortgage and mortgage-related assistance, providing up to $30,000 to assist homeowners who are in financial hardship to pay down past due mortgages or reduce monthly payments. Hawaii Community Lending, again, is our partner. And we're working in partnership with the County of Kauai. We were the first 2 islands to launch this program. And so we're operating both Kauai as well as our island under the same policies and procedures to ensure consistency in the delivery. What we've built into this program is financial counseling to ensure that, what is the best option or use if the family is eligible for the $30,000 grant. Do we work towards paying down the mortgage, or are there opportunities to negotiate with the loan servicer to maybe pay down the debt, the mortgage amount in totality so that we can reduce the monthly payment? And then we get into the details and it just goes over my head when I talk about banking and the opportunities there. So we're starting to see some success in the programs in helping families not only pay down. We've had households who were impacted by COVID because they were on fixed income, have fallen behind on their property taxes. It's like, I'm good on my mortgage, I can handle my mortgage, I just can't keep up with the low property tax. And so we've stepped in to get caught up on property taxes or HOA fees so that so they don't get in a position where they could lose their house because of that. And so finally, I want to talk about the launch of our financial empowerment centers. And all of what I just said kind of dovetails into the work behind the launch of our centers. So in partnership with the Cities for Financial Empowerment Fund, which is a nonprofit organization based out of New York, in the midst of the Kilauea eruption, they came out with a grant providing funding to support the planning of what a financial empowerment center would look like on Hawaii Island. The county applied and received a grant in late 2018 and began working with the communities as well as our financial institutions and various partners to help design what this would look like for our community, our island. And so we received funding also from Hawaii Community Foundation, as well as partnerships with Hawaii First Federal Credit Union and Hawaiian Community Assets. So I want to play this video.
We are so excited to announce the opening of Hawaii County's newest public service, the Financial Empowerment Centers. The Financial Empowerment Centers will offer professional one-on-one financial counseling to all of Hawaii's residents who are 18 years of age or older with no income or asset restrictions. These services will be offered at no cost. We know that financial issues can be complicated, and sometimes folks just need a little help to navigate the services that can be challenging on their own. So the centers will be staffed with trained financial counselors who can help residents manage their money, decrease their debt, increase their savings, establish credit, and access all of the other services that will be offered at the centers.
Hawaii Community Foundation is using a change framework to identify where the biggest gaps are in our community, where the needs are. We believe that we can do this in partnership with our donors, the nonprofit organizations, community, business, and government.
When our administration took office, we had a mission of helping people thrive, not just get by. But it's hard to thrive if you're struggling with debt, if you're trying to make ends meet, if you're trying to just put food on the table, or you're trying to get into school and looking for grants or funding to do that. Financial empowerment centers are there to help you get a leg up, to help you thrive, to help you find financial stability.
This is our chance to get our leg up in life, to create financial stability for our keiki and their keiki to come. Please visit one of the links on the screen or call the number to request an appointment today. We'll see you soon. Aloha.
So that was just a quick intro to the Financial Empowerment Center and the work that we hope that we can deliver, the services we can deliver through the centers. It was designed to be a safe space for families to get assistance as needed on a one-on-one basis. And we know that our community members are very resilient, and we're not here to tell them how to do or what to do, but more as providing guidance to them as needed as they work through their own personal situation in addressing debt or connecting to available resources. So as you can see from the screen, it's truly a partnership with the government and our partners. Our counseling partners right now are Hawaii First Federal Credit Union, as well as Hawaiian Community Assets. We have a number of community partners who have stepped up and have committed to integrating referrals to the FAC at the right points in the time as they work with clients, our funders, and our training provider. And so we're very fortunate that when we connected with Hawaii Community College, that was able to take a curriculum that was built for large metropolitan cities, specifically New York, and then be able to take it and rebuild it with still meeting all of the criteria, but to infuse Hawaii, our values into it. And so we're happy that our counselors who have completed the course all met the Cities for Financial Empowerment certification process. So the core elements, as I said, is one-to-one, is professional, it's integrated, it's data-driven. The county supports this program, and we're looking at opportunities to ensure that it's just not another program, but it's really sustainable and it is here to stay. So just some overview highlights about the FEC and how it does. And, you know, I was having conversations this morning with the Cities for Financial Empowerment Fund. They've launched, we are the first in the state of Hawaii, so I'm happy about that. They have launched about 30 of these FECs over the last 10 years throughout the United States, using the same core concepts, which is just getting to know and meeting people where they're at, understanding what their goals are, and not necessarily dictating what the next steps or the outcomes should be, but really engaging with the family to learn about them and how they can help them navigate the financial, the world of financial stability. And so this is, the screen just kind of shows a sample of potential plans or milestones, and ultimately some of the outcomes. And so our goal is, as you can see, as we continue to grow, the FEC is to connect with different sectors and community partners in our communities. And this is just a sample of opportunities that lay ahead of us. So I just wanted to throw up on the screen some of our partners who, when we applied for our implementation grant, stepped up and said, if you do this, we will be with you. And so you'll see some of the county agencies that have stepped up, as well as our nonprofit organizations that have said, we're here, we're gonna figure this out, and we're gonna find a way to look at our operations and the right points throughout helping their clients into the referring them to the FEC. So we're very fortunate to have these organizations with us. So I just want to introduce, share with you our counselors, Hawaii First Federal Credit Union, as well as Hawaii Community Assets. So we have locations. Hawaii First Federal Credit Union has 2 physical locations, one in Hilo at the old Hilo Shopping Center. I think it's still called the Hilo Shopping Center, next to in their resource center located next to the Island Naturals. Hawaiian Community Assets, and then in Waimea at the Parker Ranch Shopping Center, they also have a resource center there. There are also Hawaiian Community Assets has their office, physical office in Hilo, in Kiokaha, and then they share space at the La'iopua site in Ke'alakehe. They're doing in-person as well as virtual counseling sessions, pure choice by the families. And again, they're meeting families in at their time. So sometimes it's on weekends, evenings, early mornings, but they're very flexible to work alongside our families. So that's my presentation. I want to say thank you for having me this evening and our opportunity to share. But if you're connected to different organizations, we appreciate the opportunity to share more and go into detail and have further discussions about how the FEC can be integrated into the work that you do in the community. So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Sharon, for that presentation. That was great. That's really exciting. I guess there isn't like questions or anything at this point, Keiko, right? You can ask questions?
Yep. Okay,
so I want to open that up if anybody has any questions about that. I guess I have one particularly about the ERAP program, which, by the way, I have an ohana here and my tenant benefited from that. And it was a great process for all of us. So I just want to commend you guys on that work because it was not traumatic at all for him or for us. So it was really lovely. So thank you for the work that you guys are doing. Do you have any idea how much longer that program is going to exist?
So the first tranche of funding that we received from the federal government will end in, we need to spend it out by September of 2022. And we are well onto that path. In the meantime, the federal government gave us second round of funding that we can start spending. So we are working on finalizing a request for a proposal that we will be posting shortly. That funding goes through September of 2025.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so our Hawaii County was very fortunate that we got direct funding from the U.S. Treasury because of our population. So just the city and county of Honolulu and our county got direct funding, and then the state got the bulk of the funding. But we're very fortunate that the state decided that they're not only sharing with Maui and Kauai, but they're sharing with us and the city and county of Honolulu. So we're getting it 2 ways. So we're very fortunate.
That's fantastic. I know a couple of people have been helped as well. So I'm just really happy to see that. Thank you very much. Anybody else have any questions for Sharon? Leilani, would you like to ask a question?
Hello, Sharon, for that. Kalamai, if you said this, but is there an income requirement to apply for any of these services? Or mainly, I guess for my question was the financial empowerment centers. I see that it's to help the people, but do they have financial income requirements or any of that sort?
No income requirements. So it can be students exiting out of college with a load of student loans. It could be students entering into college and just trying to figure this out. Like, how am I going to do this? There's no cap. There's no minimum. There's no max. All the rules says is the individual needs to be 18 years of age or older because they have to sign an agreement. Yeah.
Oh, so you're not going to coach my 14-year-old? Really use
or you can come in with the 14-year-old.
I could really use that help.
But I will tell you from personal experience, right? So my son, when he came out of college, and it was working. I told him, there's a time limit in the house. You need to figure this out. And so he was working and in savings, and he wanted to become a homeowner. And I said, well, then you got to go to this class. And he's like, what? And he did. And he's a homeowner. And he sat there. I remember, because I keep telling this story because he texted me in the middle of class going, this is dumb. And I said, well, you have 2 more hours. You're going to learn something. And he became a homeowner. He connected to a resource and he took it from there. And now, I always look there. Lucky your mommy sent you to class, because you wouldn't be where you are. And he laughs. He goes, I know. But I guess it's so basic that, they don't realize the importance of the need for the foundational information so that they can grow from there. So anyway, I always tell people, it works for my son.
No, I think it's such an important thing. You always see those Facebook posts where people are like, why didn't they teach us this stuff in school? It's like, hey, our community will now teach you. Like, this is wonderful. So I think it's great. Anybody else have any questions? Everybody's okay. Can you guys hear me okay? It's Mountain View and we've got that rain. Okay. Just decided to come slamming down 5 minutes ago. Oh, the second action item is actually mine. That I had suggested. Should I introduce it, Keiko, and just share what it's about?
So I just want to say before you start, mahalo for having me. Appreciate it. I will send the PowerPoint to Keiko and she can share it out. So again, you have any questions, please feel free to connect with me. Appreciate it. Aloha.
Thank you. Heather has her hand. Oh, she's applause. Is that applause? Nice. Awesome. Thank you, Sharon. Okay, so I will just introduce this as long as you guys can hear me okay. It's a letter. I'm just hoping that we would all agree to, from the Puna CDP Action Committee, sign on to this letter. It's a letter of support that will be shared with federal funders, maybe some state potential legislators, that basically says we support better biosecurity at Hawaii's airports and ship ports. So currently there's a program that the state's been running. It was a 5-year pilot program called Mamalo Poi Poi. Basically what the program did was we have teams from various agencies, whether that's the Department of Health looking at mosquitoes, the Department of Agriculture looking at certain pests, the Department of, or the Hawaii Ant Lab looking specifically for different kinds of invasive ants, or the invasive species committees on the various islands, looking for things like coconut rhinoceros beetle, Africanized bees. So this program has been going on for 5 years. These are all very, very high risk pests that are moving around the world and would cost quite a bit of money to Hawaii on top of the invasive species we already have. So basically, this is just a letter saying that we support this program and that we want biosecurity, and we would love for someone in the federal or state legislature to champion this and give money to support that program. So, yeah, thank you, Patrice. Yeah, it's like amazing that I have to say, like, we don't actually do this. The state doesn't do it right now. This is a special program to do this thing that seems really obvious, but we've been working to keep it going. And so I was approached by Layla Kaufman, who's the coordinator at the Hawaii Invasive Species Council over in Honolulu, saying, are there community groups that would show support so we can show our legislators that our communities think this is important? And so obviously what popped into my head was this particular group. Like, well, I'm actually part of a community group. So I don't know, do we vote on that, or what do we do?
If we can entertain a motion to accept the communication.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to accept the communication.
And I second, yeah.
Okay, and then with the motion and the second on the floor, then we can open it for discussion so that folks can chime in, and then we can vote post that.
Thank you for bringing this forward, Franny. This was really informative, what you provided us, and a little bit astonishing, and that we have to ask for this support, but it's so necessary. So I really thank you, and I full support on that.
I agree.
Go ahead, Leila, Kalamay.
Oh, no, I totally agree. Thank you, Franny. You know, this is something that's always been on my mind, and that we so need more programs like this within our infrastructure here, especially here in Puna. And you stated it so well, how we are like the area that gets the worst of the worst, because we always do for some reason. And I'm just in total full support of this letter. Thank you.
Mahalo nui, Franny, for this letter. I support this effort because I found my first, I don't know what kind of beetle it was. I asked the entomology group, but I found one of those beetles outside with the long guys on top. And I was like, oh no, we just can't have any more of these pests impacting our environment. So mahalo.
Yeah, and definitely Kako Franny, mahalo nui for having this Pelina and this relationship so that, you know, things like this can come forward with our action committee. I'm wondering too if this might warrant something with the joint action committees and see if we can get the rest of our other action committees from across our Mokupuni to also come in and really help, you know, solidify, unify our voices on Hawaii Island, especially with, you know, so much that we have with invasive species making their way through our ports. So would really love to see something like that from the joint action committees.
Keiko, can you advise us on that? That's great, Mana'o.
Yeah, that's excellent. I guess, Franny, is there a deadline in which this support needs to be kind of put together?
She didn't give me a deadline. She told me within the next couple of weeks, but I think this is an ongoing process. So I can reach out to her to find out if you know, because I know that the other ones may be staggered out further, but I think it would be great if we can move forward. Thank you so much, Kanoi, for that idea.
Yeah, so let me, what we can do is, you guys are the first AC meeting during this quarter. And so let me reach out to the other chairs and see if we can't figure out something. So we won't be able to have a letter that comes from, like one letter that comes from everybody, but we could have individual letters come from each AC if they so wish to do that. Yeah.
I'm just going to say, I don't want to stop this one from moving forward in case we have a critical benchmark.
Yeah.
I see Ashley's hand up.
Ashley, you have a question?
No, I don't have a question, but it's more of a suggestion because I think one of your target audiences is the state legislature. They're currently within session, but I believe by March 13th or 15th, that's the deadline to be introducing resolutions. And so because the Puna Action Committee is taking a look at getting some legislative support for this, you could approach our Puna representatives, Gregor Iligan in the House and Joyce San Buenaventura in the Senate, and ask them to introduce concurrent resolutions in both houses. And it's just a strong statement that I think if passes, the next legislative session, you can use that as a way to maybe get bills introduced, which would, you know, call for some appropriation of funding to support this. So just a mana'o that you guys might want to consider. If you guys move on this today, I think there's time to get them to introduce some resolutions.
And I'll reach out to Leila with that information because she's coordinating it. So I'll tell her we'd be happy to even get the ball rolling from the Puna side on that if she's interested in that. I'm making a note. So give me a second.
And Franny, I'd be willing to help you reaching out to those legislators with this item.
Okay. I will reach out to Leila and I will let you guys know what she wants to do. Wonderful. Okay, so
Call to vote, I think.
Yeah, if everyone's comfortable with that, and thank you guys for your comments. It makes me feel validated that everyone cares so much about invasive species. Would anybody like to make a motion to what, Keiko? Send it?
We have a motion to accept it and send it. Yeah.
Call to vote now.
Yeah. And so because it's a voting on a business item, then due to the new sunshine updates, we have to do a roll call vote.
Okay. So I guess I'll start with Kanoi.
Aye.
Susie?
Aye.
Leilani?
Aye.
Leila?
Aye.
I just went in order of how you guys.
Franny. I'll call your name Fran.
Aye. Okay. Awesome. Thank you. The motion passes unanimous. And I will get in touch with Layla. She'll be happy to hear that. Okay, so our third business item is synergies between the implementation of the Puna CDP and the Kilauea Recovery and Resilience Plan. How many AC members are also a member of a recovery and resilience team? Yeah, most of us, all of us, pretty much. So, you know, we know that we're working on a lot of things on both sides that really just, it's all about Puna. So we are going to have a discussion to explore mutual interest between the action committees and the recovery committees, and looking at investigatory subcommittees and more committees. But, you know, with the goal of just making this as smooth and streamlined a process as possible. And for that, I think before I turn it over to you, Keiko and Heather, I should ask Patrice if she would like to now give her testimony. Okay, Patrice.
Hi, can you hear me at all? I'm in a
yes.
I don't know why your background is sunny on your.
Yeah, that's not today.
I figured that. I can't get to my email. It's not working, and I had written everything down there. I think the big concern here is that I lived in Kapoho for many years. My Ohana from Maui had houses there for 35 years that my twin sister and I took care of. We got no buyout. Nobody asked us if we wanted to keep our land or not. And the recovery money has all gone to District 4 and HCP. And there's a big concern because we have 500 people in Mountain View that are lava evacuees living here, and there's absolutely no funding for District 5 whatsoever. Now, I don't know if like somebody dropped the ball that I'm not on the action committee. I used to be on it years ago, and we don't have any cell phone towers or Wi-Fi here where I currently am. So I just kind of am, people here are really kind of mind blown on how the lava recovery and the CDP money was distributed. And District 5 has absolutely nothing but 45,000 commercial vehicles running through the middle of our private roads. And I don't know how relevant that is, but that's pretty much what people are asking me about. I think a water well was high priority, a volunteer fire department, which there's none up here. They gave me a list, but like I said, I can't get to the note. And it just seemed like there should have been a little bit more. There's no transfer station up here, no village center. The roundabout is a huge point of contention because only Hawaiian Acres is paying for all that traffic. And it seemed that the names of the people who signed for the lava recovery money are the same people who kind of were involved with the CDP. So people have been asking me, because I was the committee chairperson on this for Hawaiian Acres, and the fact that my family lived in Kapoho, people are just a little concerned, quite a bit concerned, on the equity of the funding and the lava recovery money. There also, I wanted to bring up, the Kayau Armory was extremely important for District 5 because that is our only option for an emergency shelter. And that was kind of left right out of the plan. It was kind of removed from the plan. So I hope that was relevant.
Yes, thank you, Patrice. Thank you. And I think it is relevant because a lot of the work that the recovery committees are doing, it's being driven by volunteers from all over Puna, and trying to represent the interests of all of Puna. So And I think we're going to talk a little bit about that, but I do think that's really valid. So thank you. Keiko and Heather, do you want to lead the discussion on that?
Sure. Oh, Susie, you have a question now?
Actually, I just wanted to know if I had the opportunity to briefly respond to a few of the items she said. Is that possible?
Yep.
Okay, so just quickly, Patrice, thank you for bringing your information forward. There are very many community opportunities for community engagement in this process, including the Resilience Action Team committees that you'll hear about today. And there's quarterly community events, updates and events. And the next one is at April 11th at Sure Foundation. So we encourage you to just go on the county website and find out that information and become engaged and pass it on to your constituents that you are interfacing with. Also, the buyout program is still open for engagement. They've done their first level, they're on to their second level. You can apply at any time depending on whether you're a homeowner or had tenants or had vacant land. So that is ongoing. And again, go to the county website. And I think that was about it. But oh, I think, and then the other thing you mentioned, those CDP money. The CDP actually doesn't have any money, so I'm not sure what you're referring to there. We're just an advisory committee. Mahalo.
Thanks, Susie. So I'm just going to share screen and I'm going to try to keep this really short because as you guys just shared, let me see. You guys are all very heavily involved in this already. Do you guys, what is happening? Do you guys see that? Oh, the back end? Hold on. Got it. Okay, technical. And Heather specifically asked me about this before the meeting too. She's like, are you prepared to share? I'm like, I got it. So now
You do got it.
Okay, so now I can just share my screen. Okay, how about now? Okay, great. So just very quickly, because you guys are also heavily involved in both implementation of the CDP and our recovery and resilience plan, but just for the folks who are maybe tuning in for the first time, and we'll be sure to drop links to so people can dig deeper into it, because we really are just going to touch on the surface of it, because we want you guys to be able to focus your time on conversation and kind of figuring out synergies and priorities. So what does the Kilauea Recovery and Resilience Plan have to do with the Puna CDP? In order, if we go way back to before the Kilauea Recovery and Resiliency Plan was drafted, in order to identify priority recovery goals, we asked the question, what changes and impacts from the Kilauea eruption have you seen and or experienced that have changed and or affected the Puna CDP goals? And so we engaged community members between December 2018 and May of 2019 through community-based nonprofit organizations, schools, faith-based organizations, employers, farmers markets, and resident organized talk story events. And we were able to reach over 1,000 community members. Many of these community members had not previously participated in kind of the typical community outreach that we had been doing. And so the high-level priority recovery goals were affirmed by the community and unanimously recommended by the Puna CDP Action Committee on May 21st of 2019. And these priority goals and objectives were centered around village town centers, infrastructure, natural and cultural resource management, and health and well-being. And we'll drop a link in for you guys to dig more into that. And so as part of the implementation process, the recovery team launched a network of resilience capacity areas and action teams to support community-based actions following the 2018 Kilauea eruption. And these action teams, identified in the recovery plan as working groups, are built around the categories of social, cultural, economic, built environment, natural environment, and youth resilience. And so these are the action teams that Franny was referring to when she was saying, and now I don't know how to change my screen, sorry. When she was saying that folks were involved. All right. And so then what's the difference between an action committee member and a resilience capacity area action team member or co-chair? And the hats are similar, with the major differences being that the RCAs are not subject to sunshine law, and there are resources attached to support implementation. And so if I'm not mistaken, all of our AC members are working in RCA action teams, either in a lead role or doing work within that team. And we definitely don't want to overburden our folks, because we know that you guys are meeting and working around the clock as it is already. And so because the work of the RCAs is actually implementing the CDP2, that's what we're hoping this conversation will be about, is lifting up and connecting all of the work that's happening. And so this is just a quick glance at our RCAs and our co-chairs for each of these teams. And none of this would be possible without you folks, without the recovery team, without Ashley's leadership. Like, there's just this collaborative effort that has gone into these RCAs that is unlike any other, I think, that we've seen so far. And so our natural environment focuses on invasive species mitigation and restoration, climate adaptation and restoration, with an economic focus on resilience hubs, industry and workforce development, technology and innovation, a cultural focus on Malamavahi Kupuna, creative placemaking and culture-based education, a social focus on resilience hubs, emergency disaster preparedness, health and well-being, resilient food systems, and the built focus being on Pahoa Village Master Plan, connectivity, infrastructure, and sustainable housing. And then our youth focus is really focused on empowering our youth to exercise their voices and take action as Puna community members and get involved in the processes. So at this point, I'll stop sharing if I can figure out how to do that. Okay. I'll stop sharing, and then Heather can briefly explain the prioritization exercise. I think all of you guys, some of you guys were playing with it already. It was sent out, it was included in kind of the package that was sent out to our mailing list. And so folks in the community have had a chance to see it too. And then we'll turn it back over to you guys and let you guys talk story and find synergies and work through these priorities. And we'll kind of just take notes.
Oh, sorry, I was looking at how to share my screen and then I lost my unmute button. Thank you, Keiko. So you guys have already seen this. And mahalo for joining in and collaborating on this together. I really hope that this exercise can be more of a openly facilitated collaborative effort. And I'm just here to basically share my screen. You folks also have access to this document still, and we can share the link in the Zoom chat here. So you guys are welcome to edit this how you want. These buttons you see on the right-hand side, I don't know if you can see my cursor. These all have your initials on them for all of our action committee members. And the idea here is to try to find areas where different action committee members have mutual interests so that we can start to put our heads together and come up and strategize with how we can come up with actionable items, subcommittees, working groups around these items. So if you don't have access to this, Or if you're uncomfortable with editing this, please just let us know, and I'm happy to move your buttons to, to wherever you want them to go. Basically, this box here on the right-hand side is for putting the buttons in so that you can kind of vote, I guess, for your interest areas. We can add more, we can take some away. I'm completely open and flexible with how you guys, I really would rather you guys take ownership of this than have us tell you how to come up with your priorities. So that's the basic idea. So does anybody have questions or thoughts or concerns?
I just wonder if we could, Kako, go through the whole document, and then I really struggle that I only have 3 voting buttons. Like,
yeah, I guess we just copy them, or like how do we use the little buttons? We just stick them in a box.
We can absolutely add more buttons. You guys are not there's no button shortage in this conversation, so don't worry about that. We can add more. But yeah, basically what we can do here is I can see there's a couple other people on here and some buttons are moving. Basically, the idea is just to click and drag, and you can copy and paste and make more as you so desire. But yeah, we can go down this table. So basically what we did to set up this table was we reached out to our action committee members prior to the meeting to ask for thoughts and ideas on different things that they might want to focus on or things that are interesting to them, and trying to tie that back into areas of the CDP. Just to find that connectivity there. And I don't know that I could do these items as much justice as some of the action committee members that have suggested these. So please, if somebody wants to jump in and explain what their interest is and why they chose this and what their thoughts are around it, please don't let me take the stage. So the first one, we have areas of scenic and cultural interest are accessible to the public in a manner that does not detract from the aesthetic, natural, and cultural value. Awareness and appreciation of host culture expands. Did anybody want to elaborate? Leilani. Oh, you're muted.
Kalamai, I was just raising my hand because I want my little thing to go there. I can't do the things at the same time. My computer is too old and I don't have enough bandwidth.
Oh, there you are. Oh, awesome. Anybody else have an interest in that? Or maybe this is a space to think about how you might strategize around items like this.
So I guess my question is, I mean, we're just sort of saying, oh, I have an interest in that. Like I'm having an intense fear of signing up for anything new. I mean, they see things I'm interested in. I'm like, where does this go?
Yeah, I think that's a good point, and we don't want you folks to be overburdened. And so I think a lot of these things, right, are already things, and I started making notes here around which RCAs were working on which items. And so like invasive species mitigation, some of that work is already happening, right? And so focus is already here, effort is here. And so definitely not asking for, I mean, so to that end, we can make as many buttons as we want, but if we want to kind of hone into what our priorities are that we want to focus on for this year, and that's not to say that if anything else comes up and is easily attainable that we wouldn't go after it. It's just to say that this is where our AC members are kind of focusing their energy and their time.
Could I clarify also that there was nothing for the economic / ag, and so those ones that I pulled out for that potentially align does not necessarily mean that our Komike is working on that at this time, but they were the things that I could see in the CDP that would potentially align with the economic / ag, because that's how it's written in the CDP. There's not like full alignment either. So I just wanted to make that clarifying point that it doesn't necessarily mean we're already working on that.
Gotcha.
Just had a question. Oh, sorry. I just had a question on this first one on areas of scenic cultural interest accessible to the public. Are we talking about public property? I'm just getting clarification on what areas of scenic or cultural interest are we talking about as far as accessibility to?
I want to answer that. Can I?
Please.
Yeah, so Kanoi, so when I think of this specific action item and like the areas of scenic cultural interest, I think of the entire Red Road and for lack of a better term, the Red Road, but I think of our coastline down in Lower Puna. Like the whole coastline is of scenic and cultural interest. That's accessible, most of it's accessible to the public. And it's super important that we do not take away from that. Such as like Pohiki or, you know, Kahena or Pohikiwai or Ka'akepa, like all these beautiful places along our coastline. We want to ensure that those places that are cultural, but also scenic to those that access it through the public, that we don't take away from that aesthetic value and that natural and cultural value of it.
Are we seeing there's a threat of that happening? Is that what
Yes.
we're saying too? That there is a threat that access could be cut off to these places? From where? From whom?
No, I don't think it's a threat of the access. It's the, what do you call it? How it's being accessed, right? And like what's the behavior or the lavena that's coming into those places, right? And this paradigm that it should look like this, when it's not the paradigm or the thinking of the people that are from the area. That's just my mana'o. Anyone else is welcome to chime in.
I would agree with that, but I would also like to see possibly if number 3, which really ties into that, if that were moved into that first block, then it wouldn't be like a split of that energy, because that's all kind of the same thing. It's cultural and environmental, but of our shoreline. So if it's possible to move that 3 into 1, that would be really helpful.
Yes, thank you.
It's not wanting me to do it.
I know, I was trying to move, it was not letting me do it either. We just copy and paste the 2.4.1b and then because those two things do go hand in hand.
Sorry, this is not very efficient.
You can throw a little number 2 in there too, because to maintain those resources, you also have to do that. So they're all kind of overlapping.
And I see there's a redundancy, just as what I did with the parks on number 11, shoreline biology. That one is a redundancy to the one you're moving.
Yeah, that was me, sorry.
Yeah, no, I did the same thing, Layla. I didn't realize it till later. So if that, just for sake of ease, if number 11 could be deleted, and then possibly number 12, we might need to. There's a few little different points from what I added, which was number. No number after 5. Sorry, that's where I got, that was the last minute addition. 5, yeah, that's started on that. And actually, when I look at number 10, that's in the same number 2. I think that number 10 could actually be inputted into that whole number 1 also. Because if you look at some of those things, create adopt a process for identifying historic and cultural sites, advocating for their preservation. Well, maybe not.
Okay, just clarification again. So 1 and 3 were collapsing together, is that correct?
Yes.
Or they're counting together?
Yeah.
Okay. Because then a question I have with that then is, when we're talking about shoreline, biological, historical, cultural resources are adequately protected. A strategy to protect those resources and those sites are sometimes restricting access.
Right. Yeah. That was
That is true.
my issue with the first part of the A of the number one. I like the awareness, appreciation, and host culture, but then I wasn't really crazy about the first part of that. But I like the number 3. So, but then maybe that becomes part of the strategy, right? That well.
Right. I guess, yeah.
The areas
sorry.
that do have public access, you've got to expand awareness of proper behavior in the place. But then the places that need to be protected are protected. So I think there's a way. See, realizing these were things that were drafted, before, and maybe that was one of the questions I was going to have. Is there at some point that we're going to revisit of the CDP, because I think there might need to be some sort of language change, especially since there's changes from the eruption. I mean, I think there's a large, broader overview, but many of the action steps and things which these are taken from might require another look. So that's a question to Keiko and the planning team. Is there any sort of amendment possibility at this time for us to review and amend the existing plan, given the circumstances we're under?
Aren't we supposed to be redoing aren't we due for a complete revision of the plan, actually?
We are. Yeah, all of our initial CDPs are due for comprehensive updates. But because we're currently in the middle of the comprehensive update of the general plan, we have to wait until that's complete before we move into updating our CDPs. But part of updating the general plan is reimagining our current community planning system. And so, sorry, we have people in the office. And so you folks will have, our action committees and community members will be playing a role in helping. And some of it you guys have already commented. I don't know if you guys remember way back when that we went to we did outreach with our action committees and asked kind of what was working, what wasn't working, how our community planning program could change. And so a lot of that has gone into revisions. And so when we come back out with that, you guys will play another role in trying to finalize that. So while that's not updating the CDP, it is helping to outline the foundation of what the next generation of CDPs would look like. It's a long roundabout answer to say we can't do it right now.
And I mean,
but we know it's needed. Yeah.
There's stuff in here, it's kind of, this is so hard because there's so many different things going, but things like having that process that we were just talking about, the process to identify, where did that go? I've lost it. The process to identify these sites. Oh, create a county entity and adopt a process for identifying historic and cultural sites, all that. That feels like that would be a general plan thing, not a Puna plan thing. And so like, where do we sort of just, well, do we keep stuff in or do we like put it into a different process? Like, how do we kind of deal with that stuff? Because I know that was one of the big things when we were talking about the general plan. We were the point was that they wanted to pull from all the different plans something that anything that was sort of worked, needed to happen for all of the different districts into that one plan, and then we would be specific to our area. So
yeah, so I apologize and I wish I had more definite answers for you guys, but our team and you folks got to hear Zendo at our planning director speak at our last joint AC meeting, and the comprehensive update to the GP is a priority, and folks are moving on it now. And so hopefully soon we'll have more kind of concrete answers as to what the role is and how this kind of rolls out. But you are correct, Franny, in that there are bigger kind of policies that all of our ACs share in common, and there are things that are more appropriately placed in the general plan and other things that need to stay. And so that'll be part of that planning program conversation of what gets lifted up into the GP, what stays in the CDPs.
Yeah, for example, those two that I pulled out for the economic, those absolutely are, island-wide and should be put in the general plan, but they also can be addressed locally.
I see that Ashley has her hand up.
Thanks, you guys. I just wanted to chime in real quick. We had Director Curran come to the council to provide an update on the general plan and the status of it. And he seemed to indicate that by end of year, we should be having a draft that he's better able to vet out in the public and share with the action committee members as well as the various planning commissions, because there's a level of engagement that needs to happen there. And my understanding is there is this intention to actually pull a lot of what is in the current CDPs and kind of infuse that into the general plan. So I really appreciate that kind of intention there. After the adoption and approval of the general plan, I'm hoping, and this is, the director's vision, that we can get, I think the intention is to get all of the CDPs to be reviewed at the same time. But beyond that, is there a way in which we can be, as all of the island-wide action committees, focusing on a specific topic area? And so if that is, investing in infrastructure or, the preservation and stewardship of our natural and cultural resources, is there a way that all the action committees can be doing that at one time? But also there are line items in our budget that provides the financial capital in order for ACs to take action. So that's kind of big picture down the road, but that's something that we're working on. And we're out of milk, I'm sorry. And the other thing I wanted to share as it relates to yes, 1 second.
No, it's the whipped cream.
I will make it with whipped cream. The historic and cultural sites, I think we have to be sure to engage the Cultural Resource Commission as well as SHPD, State Historic Preservation Division. They have boxes and boxes in their Kapolei office of all of these different sites and resources that have yet to be digitized. And so having conversations with them to establish some kind of memorandum of agreement where we can be accessing that information and ensuring that it's kind of documented on our side, so that in the event of, a group wanting to do some stewardship, or as Leila was saying, ensuring that if we're providing access, managing it so that people are coming with respect and the right intention, CRC and SHPD have to be part of that conversation, because the county is not the only stakeholder there.
Yes, mahalo, Ashley. That's so awesome. That's a great project. Who can we get on that inside of our, who can help them with that digitizing portion of it? Because it's extremely important, especially because they're in Kapolei, that we don't really have access to that, right? They're on Oahu. So that'd be a great project for some college students or something. I don't know.
I was going to say, I agree. Maybe we reach out to members at the University of Hawaii at Hilo. They do have a master's in heritage management there, and we might be able to kind of tap into, some of their faculty there, maybe partner with them and see if they could get some of their master's students to see that as a potential project to get their heritage management, degrees.
First hurdle is probably getting SHPD to agree to it. I don't know that they're very forthcoming with allowing people access to their documents.
Well, it's public. It's public. So they have to.
They have to.
And, it's just getting Sean Nale Maile, and
right.
he's our guy. So
yeah.
I think he'll be a great advocate, how he has to then vet it up. But it should be.
And then ensuring that some things like, that are remain huna, like the areas of the Iwi Kupuna.
Right.
Thank you so much, Ash, for sharing all that. I really do agree.
Mahalo nui, Ash. And yes, you know what? We all moms. We all get keiki, so no worries.
Oh yeah, lucky Joseph's not in here. No. I think I'm the one that put this in there, the number 10, and my question also, maybe Keiko or someone can enlighten me. Did the Kanaka building code get approved already? I want to say it did, but I just don't recall.
I don't think so. I think
Holly building did. There's a
yeah,
whole.
I think there are different aspects. Yeah.
Mm.
So yeah, there has been some work around like permitted emo structures and different like va'ahale, but
Mhm.
I'm not sure that it's actually been like adopted code.
Okay,
But I can let me look into that.
thank you.
Yeah.
And I also wanted to share that the things that I added into this specific document, spreadsheet, whatever we want to call it, the priorities are things that I feel like I'm currently doing because I cannot overwhelm myself. I do have a lot going on. And it's not just with the resilience capacity, but with our nonprofit as well. Like we are trying to work toward this preservation and of these cultural and natural resources along our coastline. And so I don't have any more buttons to put next to my name, but the the things that I did add into here are the things that I feel like that we're currently working on through the Cultural RCA, as well as through our community efforts with our nonprofit programs.
And that's where the redundancy is. The one I put in at 3.5 and number 10 are the same. So except that I just added a little bit of language and I did a slight language proposal change for at least when I pulled out the Ahalanui stuff. So I don't know how you want to handle that, but Leila, I see you put a button on number 12. We could just, maybe somebody could cut and paste my one in there, even though it's a little bit of redundancy. And I'll put my button down there with you.
I agree. Yeah, those two things go hand in hand.
They're coming from the same,
Yeah.
the same kind of place. Kanoi, how did you get more buttons? Seems like you got more than.
I get the good kind laptop, so I copy and paste.
Oh shoot! I was like, I need more buttons.
So I can copy and paste for you guys if you guys like more buttons. Since I can.
I already made one extra one for Layla, and then I'm like, no, maybe she shouldn't get any more buttons. There's too many already.
Oh, I figured it
I
out.
said,
Thanks,
okay, I got a
Kanoi.
cap already. I was like, oh no.
I figured it out too. Mahalo.
So, Keiko, I just want to clarify the point of this is for us to just sort of identify those priority areas, and then at a later date we are going to kind of figure out what types of projects, like the one that we just talked about, like maybe trying to figure out a way to get the university to help SHPD digitize their resources. Like we, at a later date, we'll sort of identify some of those projects and make those subcommittees, or how do you want to, what's the goal of this?
Yep, I think that makes sense. And I think you guys are noticing this as you're going through it, but because there's so much combined work between your community work and your RCA work and your AC work, that the conversation is just, you guys are working on so many things that it's hard to, there's not really a need to prioritize at this point because these are mostly things that you're working on. So when it comes to what you're talking about, Franny, of identifying new projects, and if more than 2 AC members want to work on something together, then certainly that's where we can make create a investigatory subcommittee for you guys to work freely. And community members also can be brought into those, right? In some of our other action committees, the idea is to kind of help them identify priorities so that they can begin working on them. It's a little bit different for Puna because you folks are already doing this work, if that makes sense. So it's kind of to help us also wrap our heads around all of the things that you guys are working on. Because as Leila says, it's not just RCAs, right? It's the nonprofits, it's all of this other work that you guys are doing too.
Would it be helpful for us to kind of just go down the table at this point, or are we still kind of in a brainstorming session? I'll take that as a yes.
I just wanted to add something before we do that, because, you know, there has been this thought that, you know, sometimes people think that the PCDP and the Kill Recovery and Resiliency Plan are not something that are, that's being, like, they're not complementary to each other. And what was mentioned earlier, that we started in 2018, December 2018 to May of 2019, really looking at what was the priorities that were within the PCDP, and looking at what was happening within in the recovery of our community, what needed to happen, that there is areas where they do complement each other. There are other things that are in the Recovery and Resiliency Plan as well too, that are not within our PCDP, but things such as like the natural and cultural resource management are things that do kind of complement each other. So I just wanted to share that, because I've heard this multiple times, how the PCDP does not kind of mesh with or complement the Recovery and Resiliency Plan. Thank you.
Franny's got me worried. I want to put my button on so many, but I'm just completely cannot overcommit. And then I did have sort of a question on one of them, and that was about the highways. I understood that there was a plan for the roundabouts going like Kea'au to Pahoa, and that's in the plan, but I'm just not sure, like, if that's in motion, we don't, you know, need to make that a priority. So I don't know if we could get sort of an update on that from DOT. And then some of the other ones, like the green jobs is in motion. Like, I know Ashley got that, the funding, and things are happening there. So some of these things are in motion.
I just want to point out, Patrice put a comment in the chat about the CDP being the source of funding for every district and community, and that the action committee gets funded through DPW and planning. We have our wonderful DPW, or I'm sorry, our planning committee, our county planning folks here tonight. I really need to eat dinner. And that we get support through all the work that these folks do to put these agendas together and get all this information and set up these Zooms and be here with us at night and take notes and minutes and make sure that we're keeping within sunshine law and doing everything, you know, by the book. But outside of that, we don't have funding. So this committee doesn't have, Patrice, any money. We don't have any kind of budget that we decide how projects happen, right? This is just an advisory committee. And so all of us are volunteers, and we're trying to figure out what's important to Puna, listen to what people are telling us. We're listening to what you're telling us about Puna, and where, you know, how can we tell the county and support the county in giving them that information for them to make their decisions. But the decision-making process still resides within the county council and the administration of the county.
And she did provide a clarification that recommendations from CDP get the funding. That is not a given, Patrice. I know you were on the committee before, but that's all we can do is advise and request, and there's a possibility of funding, but.
Yep.
So just as I'm looking at time, I'm wondering, if maybe we leave this document available to you guys so that you can continue to work on it and manipulate it. Or if you don't want to manipulate it, you can just send us your notes and your comments. And then we can do that, and we can kind of clean it up and provide a revised version to you folks and to members of the public who are tuning in, so that everybody is aware and on the same page. And it can kind of be iterative. I mean, this can be a living document so that we can be able to go back to it.
I think that's a great idea, Keiko, and I think it would be nice to maybe keep this on the agenda for the next meeting, and give us a chance between now and then to look at it and think it over. And also, I don't know at what point, I know Zendo had shared some stuff with us, but if Bethany guys, the general plan folks are at any point where I know they're still in development, but where they might want to talk about the things that they're pulling out of the plans that do intend to go into the general plan, because I think that will help us as well. And I don't know if the next meeting would be a good time to schedule that, or maybe it looks more like the one after that. So just throwing that out there to you guys, if you could put out your feelers on that.
We can. I think based on what Ashley was sharing earlier, I think it's looking at like end of year. Would be a good.
I just want to make sure if there's things that are in if there's processes that are in our Puna CDP that we are assuming and hoping get pulled out into the general plan, just to be able to make sure that those are right. And so we can do more work to go back to the Puna CDP and sort of relook at what are the things we're expecting or hoping will get put into the general plan. But maybe just nice to have a check-in with them before they're already at here's the draft for everyone to review stage a little earlier in the process. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah, gotcha.
So yeah, maybe not next meeting, but some point a little earlier. And you can just let them know that that's what we're talking about, so that they can come prepared for that, and hopefully they'll let you know when the right time to have that discussion is on their side. So if it's too early, it doesn't help. Okay. Is that fine for everybody then, that we wrap this up and then we work on the document and we come back and talk about it at our next action committee meeting? I see Layla has her hand up.
I do definitely want to come back to the roundabout thing, because there's been a major issue with the roundabout in Ainaloa, and I want to see us figure out a solution to this, because today it took me 11 minutes to get from Paradise Park to Paradise Drive to Maku'u Drive. And it's a huge issue with our roundabouts they're planning on putting in over here. The second thing is, we did do this exercise with the general plan and the PCDP years back, where we looked at the PCDP and what was coming, the draft general plan, and we did give recommendations, I want to say, and this was about 4 years ago when it was first coming out. I don't know if you remember that, Susie, at Keiko, for sure. We spent a lot of time on that and pulling stuff out of there, the PCDP, to kind of align with the general plan.
Yeah,
maybe we can bring that back to share later. Just wanted to throw that out there. Thank you.
Yeah, and I just wanted to reiterate that as you guys look at this, the county planning department, if you could possibly, if there's things that are in motion that you could provide us with updates on, that would be really appreciated. And I guess my Mana'olela is, I think it's a stoplight that's the problem, not the roundabout, but that's a different discussion.
I am hearing a lot of complaints about getting out of Ainaloa though, in that roundabout in the morning too. I'm hearing tons of complaints about how bad it is. So what do you guys suggest as far as, is there someone we can ask to come to one of our meetings to talk to us about that? I'm looking for suggestions from everyone, including the planning department folks right now.
Franny, reach out to State DOT. Our Hawaii Island contact person is Harry Takiue.
Mahalo, Ashley.
Thank you. Thank you for your patience as I take notes. I won't remember. I don't write it down. So thanks, folks. Okay. So we'll see if maybe, Layla, would that be good to maybe get that as somebody as a speaker, or, to take questions and such for another future meeting?
Please.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Did someone else have a hand up, or we're okay for now? Or okay. Okay, so.
Hello, my friend. Yeah, I do. Maybe mine you cannot see. I just wanted to briefly kind of just help Mana'o as far as what Patrice had brought up regarding District 4 and District 5. And I think part of the something that might need a little more clarification as far as that document goes is how the PCDP is moku wide versus Kilauea is more focused in District 4, correct? Is it 4? Sorry, the lower Puna. And so I just want to make sure that we are looking, or we're having clarifications where the PCDP is focusing on the bigger, broader things of our district and the Kilauea recovery. We have the committees, the action committees and stuff, so those don't necessarily span up here. Up UCA is my understanding. So just a little bit more clarification on that part.
And there are definitely folks on, I'm in District 5 and I'm a co-chair on one of the resilience teams, and I've been to a few of the other meetings. And so there are definitely folks from all over Puna. And I would say, Patrice, there's also tension sometimes between folks in Upper Puna, Middle Puna, who are saying, hey, a lot of people moved up here, and so we need resources. And people in Lower Puna saying, no, it happened here, we need resources. So that discussion takes place, and it's very active, and it's very robust. So, yeah. Go ahead. Did you want to follow up on that, Patrice?
First, I want to say how nice it is to see a group of Wahine on the Action Committee, and the fact that there's a lot of Hawaiian local people there. That's very refreshing for me. Second of all, I'm really going to ask you all to examine this roundabout problem, because Ainaloa Boulevard is 2 miles long. You are driving through Hawaiian acres. The road has never been fixed. It's never met a code. This has been an issue for 21 years for Hawaiian acres. Now I'm stuck living here. I don't have control anymore. So there's more of an issue. We do have a lot of active people in this community, but the traffic coming through our 1.5 lanes on Moho Road is just a disaster. It's accident after accident. It's not counted because we're a private road. We said no to the roundabout, and there needs to be a solution. Either another, there has to open more roads, not another one through Hawaiian Acres, because everybody thinks there's going to be a connector, but it goes to one road, of which is another 1-lane road that we have gotten no funding for. So, it's going to be a lawsuit. It's just going to happen, and I'm really sorry to say that. But I have really enjoyed seeing the new group of participants on the Action Committee. I've been doing this since 2008. We're still waiting for our master plan, and we'll probably just continue trying to get it passed. So, thank you for. I really appreciate listening to it all. I think you have some great ideas.
Thank you, Patrice. We appreciate you being here. And I think all of us do. I think for me, the roads issue, which, I drove roads of Puna every day, and obviously we need so much help and so much work, and it's overwhelming. It's really just overwhelming to think about how do we in this committee begin to tackle that problem. But it's definitely important and really critical. So thank you. Okay, next thing on the agenda. Can I move on to the next agenda item then, Keiko? Or Heather, somebody wanna, is there anything I need to do? Okay. Is election of Action Committee officers.
Wait, sorry, real quick. It's the framework.
Oh, I'm sorry.
First.
I skipped. Framework for Action Committee run meetings. So we have some action committees have expressed interest in hosting their own official meetings. And so we want to clarify the framework for that option, establish general roles and responsibilities, but of course we always have to be in mind sunshine law. So I will turn that definitely over to Keiko and Heather for.
Okay. I'm going to share screen real quick again. Hopefully I get it right on the first try. You guys see that? Bunch of people jumping, cheering. You see it? Okay. All right, and so why are we talking about this? I think that maybe you guys have heard this conversation happening with other action committees. But what do AC hosted meetings mean, and yeah, how do we get here? So many of our AC members from around the Moku have been asking for more regular and frequent meetings. And we would love, I think you guys know this about us, we tend to want to shoot for the moon. And so we would love to be able to provide the support that is needed, but the reality is that we just can't. And so this is a solution that we are hoping can help solve for some of it. It's kind of like trying to find that middle ground. And so action committee hosted meetings would be the AC convening meetings between the already scheduled quarterly meetings. And this conversation, again, because of all of the work that is happening within our RCAs, you guys might feel differently about this. And so this is being left up to ACs to decide what they're most comfortable with. And so we're committed to supporting quarterly meetings and 2 joint AC meetings. And you guys have that schedule, but these AC hosted meetings would be you guys convening in between those meetings. They would be hosted and organized by you folks. I think the whys that we've heard are the continuity. Sometimes things get put on the back burner when meetings are too far, spread apart. And so the need for these meetings and not being so reliant on county capacity to support, and having more frequent meetings allows for additional touch points with community. Sorry, I'm just trying to find my next, there we go. Okay, so what does this mean? Who attends? It means basically everybody attends except us, staff. And so it could still be your council members, it could still be guest speakers doing presentations, it would be you guys, it would be community. And so the chair and the vice chair would still be the conveners of the meeting, and you guys would have to ensure quorum. In this case, because we only have quorum, all 5 of you would have to be in agreement on the time and day. And so when would these meetings happen? They could happen whenever you guys wanted them to, as long as we had enough time on our side to post the agenda and do all of those things that keep us in line with sunshine. And the options for where you folks could meet are either a Zoom hybrid, because we're under the assumption now that when the governor's proclamation ends on March 25th, that we will go into this Zoom hybrid space. And so still offering Zoom connection to meetings, but then also needing to provide some place that people can come in person, one spot. Yeah.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Sure.
Is it possible to to have these, not to have these scheduled, but if something comes up that requires our convening, that can happen, so that it's, since all of us are involved, or most of us I think are involved already in the action committees, that this is just as needed, that this is a
Yep.
possibility?
Yep, absolutely.
I was going to ask the same. And so what is the amount of notice that we would need to give you in order to make sure, if we wanted to do that?
Mm-hmm. So on our side, we'd need to have the agenda posted 6 days prior.
6 working days, yeah?
6 days.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 6 weeks days. So yeah, it's still, you still can't just call a meeting, the next day if something needs to be addressed, but 6 days is, especially because it's weekdays and not work days, gives a little bit more room for flexibility. Yeah, and so I think, and this is just a general kind of overview, right? And so our AC members, our chair and our vice chair would work with AC members to prepare an agenda. So it's kind of in the same way that we reach out to all of our AC members and say, hey, what do you guys want to see on the agenda? Just the chair and the vice chair would do that. And then the agenda would get sent to us, and we can help kind of just vet to make sure that it's compliant with Sunshine, and we would take care of all of the posting. We would still continue to like send it out to our mailing lists. We could still engage council member, you know, all of the same role that we normally play to get people engaged. And then something new would be that the AC, someone on the AC, it could even be a community member, but somebody that the chair or the vice chair appoints to take the minutes. Because then we would need minutes from the meeting. And those two, we could help with reviewing, editing, and posting to keep in compliance with Sunshine. And then AC members would facilitate and then follow up on any of the actions from the meeting. We could, if you folks decide that Zoom hybrid is something that you want to do rather than just an in-person meeting, we're happy to provide our Zoom account and access. And so we can get that meeting started for you folks, turn over the hosting abilities to our chair and vice chair or whomever wants to kind of handle the Zoom part of it. And definitely we can help to make connections. So say this engaging with Harry Takiwe from DOT, if this was something that you guys wanted to have at your own meeting, we can still help to engage and make those connections with folks. And then, yeah, and so for community folks, it wouldn't be that different. They would still register to attend if it was a Zoom hybrid, and they can still participate in the RCAs and in any investigatory subcommittees that are created. And this is our little plug for applications to the AC, because we do want to encourage new members to apply. So yeah, this is really just meant to be a conversation starter, so that we can gauge interest and see, did I stop sharing? Okay, so we can gauge interest, and then if folks are interested in doing this, we can certainly have a more like detailed training where we would provide resource packets, because we're not expecting you to just like, you know, we would provide templates for agendas, for meeting minutes, for different things like that. And we would get Corp Counsel to kind of weigh in on all of the things that would need to be followed. So just a conversation starter to gauge interest with you guys.
Anybody have any questions?
Thank
I mean, I feel like right now we are doing so many meetings with Revitalize Puna that it's adequate, but I like that we could just hit on this option if we needed it, right? So yeah, thank you.
I agree.
Yeah.
I completely agree. It's on an as needed basis, right? If we need to like bring it in. Thank you.
I just have a clarifying question. If it's a hybrid, and so an in-person, what would be an appropriate facility that could be used for that, as far as hosting an in-person meeting?
That is a good question.
Well, them at Starbucks, or is that not really? I mean, how does that work?
Yeah,
Kohala coffee.
Cola brew. No, that's a good question, and it's something that we're struggling with ourselves, because even for us in May, we're going to move into this hybrid situation. And so, do we have the equipment that we need to do it? Can we secure a venue that is appropriate? I think with more of the COVID restrictions being lifted, more venues will become available. But it's also going to then highly depend on connectivity and access to stable bandwidth. So I know that's not really an answer. I know for ourselves, we're kind of exploring different county facilities like Alpuni Center or Office of Aging, but a lot of it is, yeah. Anyway, we're struggling with how we're going to do this appropriately for each community, because it doesn't feel fair to ask community members to, if they want to show up in person, to have to travel so far to just a specific location. But yeah, we're trying to work through it. So I don't have any good answers. Sorry.
No worries. I mean, first off, I think Susie and I were in the emails, and it was like, wait, am I gonna open up my home and have people come to my house? And she's like, no, and I'm like, yeah, I don't want that either. So that's why I just had to ask that question to see what would be someplace appropriate, or if there's any ideas that the county might have an idea of facilities that could be where we would have access to. So, but mahalo, Kiko.
So I just wanted to share, because so we used to alternate because we used to have them always at KL Community Center, and then we started to alternate between KL and Pahoa Community Center. So every other meeting we kind of like alternate back and forth. And I know that KL is not nearly as big as Pahoa, but I'm assuming that would be an option come in the future for sure. Again, those options.
I remember at least one extremely cold meeting at Cooper Center as well.
Yes,
So
yes, that too.
yeah.
Yes.
Let's make sure if we do that the cycle never falls on like a December, January, February meeting in Volcano. I love it there, but my God, that was harsh.
Got it. Summers in Volcano.
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah, so we can continue this talk. I appreciate the feedback and the questions because it's helpful for us to kind of work through this too. And I think what we're hoping to do is kind of bring these conversations from all of our ACs together to try and see if we can't, anyway, have some continuity between how we operate.
Thank you. Thank you, team, for your support always, even trying to give us our training wheels to do it on our own. Really appreciate it. So can we move in? We will move to the final agenda item, the election of Action Committee officers. We need to nominate a chair and vice chair. And I don't see it on here, but just that reiterate, like we need more members too. So everybody talk to your, they say, if you want something done, ask a busy woman. So if you have fellow busy women, they are the most likely candidates to be able to drag them on here. So ask around. I will turn that over to Keiko.
Awesome. And so we'll facilitate this part just so that you guys can fully participate in your conversations. And so I would open the floor and ask if there are any nominations for chair or vice chair.
To make a motion.
We can go with chair first.
Make a motion to nominate Fran Brewer as chair. She was existing vice chair, and we have had these discussions offline. So I was getting nervous when I saw these extra meeting things come up. I'm like, stop, she might change her mind. But I'd like to put a motion on the floor to nominate Fran as the chair.
I'm this close to voting nay on this, Susie.
I second that.
Then I'm going to take off my bargaining chip to get you to do that. So don't do it.
We'll just mute you before your vote comes, Franny.
I second Auntie Susie on that.
Great. Any conversation or other nominations?
Close the vote. Close and want to vote.
Okay.
Close the nominations.
Call the question.
Oh, call for the question.
Okay, we'll do a roll call vote then. Kanoi?
Aye.
Susie?
Aye.
Leilani?
Aye.
Leila?
Aye.
And Franny?
Aye.
Awesome. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Franny.
Awesome.
Thank you. And in that case, I would like to put forth a motion to nominate Susie Osborne as vice chair.
I second that.
Great. So any conversation, discussion, or any other nominations?
Mahalo.
Call for the question.
Okay, this is quick and easy. I like it. Kanoi?
Aye.
Leilani?
Aye.
Franny?
Aye.
Leila?
Aye.
And Susie?
Yes, I'll do it. Aye.
Mahalo.
That was the bargaining chip here, Franny. Mahalo, Fran. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Susie.
Yes, thank you to both of you.
Yeah, awesome. Turn it back over to you, Franny.
Okay, so are there any agenda item suggestions? I think we actually had a couple already. So is there anything additional that we didn't already talk about tonight? You know, we talked about future meetings. Is there any future agenda items that folks would like to suggest? And this doesn't have to be just tonight, Keiko. We can come to you with this later as well, as long as there's plenty of time, lead time for you to get it on the agenda and get it to the public, correct?
Yep, at any time. And then we always do our reach out to ask if folks have any ideas. But yeah, at any time.
Okay. Anybody got anything? Oh, Leiva's got her fake hand up and a real hand. Go ahead.
So I have two things I'd like to ask about. If we could get Harry to Takiue to come from the state DOT, if it's possible, or just if he can come in virtually. When is our next meeting?
May, first Thursday in May.
First Thursday in May, okay. And then if we could get him to come, whether it be in person, it would be good if he come in person, because we're meeting in person, correct?
That is a question too. It can be, yeah, either Zoom hybrid or in person.
Okay.
Yeah.
You put that out there.
As long as we don't have to go through the roundabout.
May is almost summer.
It is almost
We
summer.
should hold, if we can get him, we should hold the meeting in the roundabout, and he
There
has
we
to
go.
explain to us right there.
I know it was actually a pretty big center up there, but yeah, if we could work towards getting him to come. And the second thing I'd like to see us do is, I don't know if this is the place for it or not, but a killer recovery update.
Mahalo, that's exactly what I was going to suggest. Thank you. Leilani, you're muted if you're talking.
I just said Cinco de Mayo.
Let's do a Zoom so we can all have a inu.
And just before, Franny, before you call for the motion to adjourn, we're gonna drop a link in the chat for feedback form, and then we'll drop it in the YouTube chat too. And then we'll also send it out. So if you don't get it right now in the chat, not to worry, we'll send it up in our follow-up email.
Okay, great. I still see some hands up though. So Kanoi, did you? No, you guys just left it up.
I just had one item. I was wondering if, I think by then, isn't the ledge closed? The legislature closes by then, or is it still? I'm just wondering if we could get either Joy or Gregor to come and give us an update on what's been happening with the latest legislature, and if there's any bills we should be aware of or anything that did pass through that would impact our Puna community.
That's a great idea.
I like that, yeah.
Would that also include I can't remember the deadline, but something to do with the budget? Would we be able to get some kind of report on that?
I think
in the county or the state budget. What do you mean?
I think for this, it doesn't happen until the summer.
Yeah. So our intention is to send out soon. The draft CIP was just submitted to council. And so our intention is to kind of get this out to our AC members so that they can see what CIP projects are proposed. And then really the best route, not that I want to overwhelm our council members, but they are our decision makers when it comes to budget items. And so your opinions, I think, will be valuable to our council members. So even if we can't comment as an action committee, we can certainly do so as individuals. And so we're trying to work through that process and the timing to see where we land and what we
that
can
might
do.
be a reason to reconvene briefly if we could provide us with a deadline that, you know, Ashley and the council members would need, you know, a letter from us or, you know, input, then we could reverse engineer that and maybe need to convene a quick meeting.
Keiko, maybe also circulating to AC members, just the budget hearing schedule. We have 3 days of budget hearings. Folks can stream online. Everybody is also available to provide public testimony. We just got the first draft of the budget from the administration on March 1st. Lots of information to comb through, but there was an increase in revenues without having to increase any types of taxes of $70 million. So there's a lot more money within our county purse. On top of that, we have 52 million in our fund balance. And with all the different money that's available through the American Rescue Plan, our county is receiving 60 million. There's also a lot of money that's coming in for infrastructure with Build Back Better. So a lot of money right now coming into the county, and really do think that there is an opportunity to be implementing some of the priorities that have been identified in the CDP. I also just want to note that every year when the annual capital improvement plan, the CIP budget, is produced, there's a number of different criteria that is taken a look at. And one of those criteria is this project in line with the general plan, and are we implementing the CDP by making an investment in this infrastructure? And so that's another way in which we can be tracking the investment in just bringing the CDP to life. So that's just one thing, but that's just infrastructure related. I think there are other ways in which we can be providing some kind of grant making program to action committees to be able to demonstrate some of the ideas within the CDPs, and then further money to help scale them up. So if these are of interest to you during budget hearings and other council meetings where we talk about the budget, definitely take the opportunity to submit testimony individually as well as an AC. And if possible, show up via Zoom to provide that oral testimony. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. And I just want to say, I really always appreciate your kahea for support when you put out, you know, that call to action on important legislative items. So I want to encourage you to continue that, you know, that transparent communication that you provide us is really appreciated, because we don't always have the time to look through everything that is being, it's not, you know, I don't have the time to see everything that's on the agenda items. So things of importance like that is super appreciated. And I don't know if there's somebody within this county, within this, if there's things that pertain to CDP, just as you said, Ashley, if somebody can watchdog that, because that's pretty impossible for us to watchdog.
Yes, mahalo. Blood sugars are low, folks.
I think that is true. So I like we said, there's also plenty of time between now and May for you to submit potential agenda items. So nobody feel held back from our discussion tonight. If something else pops into your head, but it seems like at this point we've come to the end of our agenda and thus the end of our meeting. So that chat yep, that form is in the chat there, the link. Now I just need a motion to adjourn the meeting. Layla's like, me.
Make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
And it's been seconded. Then it passes and this meeting is officially closed. Mahalo to everybody.
Mahalo nui. Aloha.
Thank you.
Mahalo, you guys.
Mahalo nui.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Mahalo, you guys.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure to see you.
Thank you. Bye,
Thank you for all your hard work. Good night.
Ahoyo.